2003, Fox Studios in Australia. Actors are ready, crew members hold their breath. Everyone knows what's about to happen.
Okay, cut.
To get there, well, we need to rewind. Way back, actually.
Since they had chosen such a short-range weapon, they would have to be so good if they're up against ray guns and lasers.
Here's the beginning. Those dudes, who, let's be honest, look a bit ridiculous, are technicians from ILM, a VFX studio created specifically for Star Wars. Their job is to bring to life what George Lucas had in mind when he wrote his very first drafts for Star Wars. Those early designs clearly drew inspiration from Japanese culture, which makes sense given how much Lucas loved Kurosawa's samurai movies. And just like katanas, the lightsaber is a symbol, and thus a modern-day descendant of magic blades, such as Excalibur from the Arthurian legend, Zulfikar from Islam, but also Anduril from Tolkien or Jon Snow's Long Claw. It was built by set decorator Roger Christian, who used an old camera flash stick and added a bunch of small parts to it. Simple as hell, but it works. It just has to make some noise now. And for this, let me show you Mr. Ben Burtt, wielding a microphone in front of an old TV to mess with interferences. Yeah, I know, there's still one thing missing: light. Actually, when shot on set, the sabers had a spinning rod, covered with reflective tape so that the movement would fake glowing light. But those broke quickly, so they switched back to static blades and added light in post-production. That job went to a small VFX studio, which was given this memo that I find incredible. For us Star Wars fans, it is wild to think that back then, someone actually had to explain what a lightsaber was and how it was supposed to work. George Lucas, serious as hell in front of somewhat confused actors, told them to hold a lightsaber with both hands so that the audience would feel the weapon's weight. To choreograph the fight, he called in Peter Diamond, an experienced stuntman who had no idea he was designing the very first lightsaber duel of what would become a very long series. By the way, it was Diamond who played the Tusken Raider who attacks Luke in the beginning of the movie. For the duel on the Death Star, the crew had to get creative. You catched it? The ignition was a trick. Ben Kenobi first has the saber's hilt, and then was given another prop with the blade and slowly turned it to fake the lining up. That's why there's a kind of image jump in the final movie, and that's the transition. As for Ben's death, technicians used wires that had to drop with the precise timing. The actors were having just as tough a time as the crew. Alec Guinness, a legendary icon from Hollywood Golden Age, was now old and slow. David Prowse, portraying Vader, had to wear the heavy costume and couldn't see a thing through the mask. Yet, despite being somewhat clunky, history was being made, and the lightsaber was well on its way to becoming iconic.
Your powers are recalled, man. You should not come back.
You can't win, Darth. If my blade should find its mark, you will cease to exist.
For the next episode, things leveled up. The fight had to be longer, bigger, and way more spectacular. So Peter Diamond decided to call in Bob. Who's Bob? I let Diamond introduce him.
And Bob, to me, was the best man in the country to have on this picture for this particular sort of fight. And we've done hundreds of fights together as such, the heroes or the villains, whatever the case may be, you know.
Bob Anderson is truly one of those incredible but underappreciated legends in film history. Just to give you an idea, he was an Olympic fencer before he became head coach of the British fencing team. And concerning cinema, he worked on Kubrick's Barry Lyndon, A Lord of the Rings, and Pirates of Caribbean. Not bad. For The Empire Strikes Back, Bob Anderson had the honor of portraying Lord Vader during his fights. Gosh, look at this pig, he's so badass. He worked with Peter Diamond to train Mark Hamill in lightsaber combat for 4 months.
1, 2, 3, and I. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Shoot, round we go. Yeah!
I can't talk now, I'm out of breath.
Like I said, the fight was to be more ambitious than episode 4, so Lucas broke it into 3 parts and mapped it with storyboard that would convey the intended movements. Just before shooting the fight, Mark Hamill got injured by spraining his thumb. It was for this scene where he's recovered by Lando. Poor Mark. Angry, he blamed the producer for not using a stunt double, and the fight was postponed for a whole week. It delayed the schedule more than it already was, and added more tension on set. When they finally got started, it was for a hell of a shoot. Literally. The freezing chamber filled with smoke made the air hard to breathe and the floor sleepy to walk on. Just like his predecessor, Anderson couldn't see a Jawa with the mask and was working virtually blindfolded, relying just on muscle memory. Next step of the fight was no better, since Hamill was getting hit in the face with flying bits of set pieces. Still, they did call a stuntman for the moment he's thrown out of the window. For the last setting, the abyss was faked with blue screen, and Luke's cut arm was actually a prosthetic hand tossed in the air. All in all, it took 8 weeks to capture what would go down as the most iconic duel of the whole saga. The team got back on track to wrap up the trilogy with a few skirmishes on Tatooine and, of course, the famous throne room duel. Good! The way it was designed is really interesting, because stunt coordinator, director and set designer all worked closely together to shape the setting that would directly influence the choreography. Every element of the space was built with the duel in mind. This time it took Hamill a full month to be ready to battle again with Anderson. Now, just try to figure out that, even though it's now a classic, being able to believe in it before sound effects were added, well, you had to be quite confident. Right, we're gonna start having fun now, because with the prequels, George Lucas decided to create highly dynamic fights. His idea was that we were to witness Jedi in their prime, so they'd be super fast. That's why he brought in Nick Gillard, who carefully crafted their fighting style.
We shot a test fight to set this style, this sort of Jedi style. I wrote it very much like a game of chess played at 1,000 miles an hour, and every single move is a check. There's only one way out of it.
Keep in mind that this was Star Wars' great comeback, and the lightsabers fight we covered had marked a whole generation, including the new actors.
The first time we were rehearsing these fights, of course, we started making the sound effects of the lightsabers, like, you know, we kind of looked at each other and I thought, okay, we have to stop that, you know.
The choreographies made by Gillard were then checked and sometimes tweaked by Lucas. For example, Qui-Gon vs. Maul on Tatooine was to continue on the ship's ramp, before the Sith got ejected back to the ground. But as you know, that quick skirmish was just a warm-up for what would become the legendary Duel of the Fates.
I'll never forget this day when we were shooting, because we had this incredible opening that reveals Ray Park as Darth Maul, and I remember the whole crew just shuddered. I mean, there was absolute silence. When he takes off his coat, it was just electric inside the stage.
To play Darth Maul, Gillard called in Ray Park, who was both a fantastic fencer and a swift acrobat. To master the hectic 2v1 choreography, he trained with Ewan McGregor and Liam Neeson so hard that the steel blades literally got bent.
This is a Ewan McGregor lightsaber. We have to go through one fight.
If you take a close look, you'll see that Maul used kinda cocky moves that were designed to show the Sith overconfidence. Most of the duel was shot on blue screens, under George Lucas's close supervision. And you can really feel how much the actors loved every second of it.
do Star Wars, they said. I said, too fucking right.
Right, episode 1 was a great leap, true, but episode 2 is something else. That's true, we scaled up from 2 Jedi fighting to the whole Order getting into action, with the now legendary Geonosis Arena sequence. Gilad had a blast creating so many different fighting techniques, such as the style of a pretty cool Jedi.
I was thinking about a style for him, but it's Sam Jackson's style, you know, that he has so much style of his own.
Since I'm supposedly the second baddest person in the universe, I dispense people pretty quickly. Use as little energy as possible, but I'm pretty lethal.
Yeah, I think Django will agree on this. Episode 2 also gave us a chance to explore more of the galaxy and to see some unique fight scenes like the one on Kamino, which kinda drifted towards Catch. For Anakin's style, he was built partly in contrast to his masters.
A lot of the aggression that I hold in my character is exemplified in my fighting style. Obi-Wan, his fighting style is much more by the book, even though he's obviously very skilled.
These two approaches are used during the final fight against Dooku, in which the 2 Jedi are clearly no match for him. Dooku was portrayed by Christopher Lee for close-ups, but as an elder actor, he was no longer able to move his arms quickly, so they shot a stuntman whose face would be replaced in post. As for Yoda, a model was brought on set to serve as a visual reference, but he'd actually be completely made with CGI by ILM. To kick off the duel, they decided to start with a Force showdown that they called the Battle of the Wizards. Yet, the real wizards were Rob Coleman and his animators team. They were pretty nervous whether the sequence would end up looking badass or ridiculous, considering how big of a technical leap it was. And I mean, being reviewed by George Lucas had to be really stressful.
It's going to be pretty important that he move fast enough to where we can barely see him, because then it'll all be credible. Once you start to actually see what he's doing, it's going to start getting a little funky, I think.
Now you might know that Anakin's loss against Dooku called for a revenge, which is the first battle of episode 3. Well, looks like there's still a few things to be fixed. More seriously, let's use this fight to dive into Nick Gilad's methods to choreograph a duel. With his stuntmen's team, and sometimes the actors themselves, he shot a test footage to present to Lucas the intended style and pacing. Those clips, which you can find on Gilad's own channel, are truly amazing, since they're full of little moves that would be deleted from the final fight, some of them being really, really cool. Episode 3 would be Gilad's last dance on Star Wars, so he went full gas with all the fights, most of them being real technical challenges since they involve digital environments and characters. That movie was also a major milestone. After 25 years of Star Wars, production finally managed to build sabers that didn't break. Just for your information, 50 blades were broken during episode 1. For those of you lucky enough to play it, they made a video game out of episode 3, which is somehow linked to lightsaber choreography. Indeed, the developers had the chance to meet both Hayden Christensen and Gilad to shoot some reference take and understand how to recreate Star Wars fights. Check out this dev and the way he instinctively paired that like a true Jedi.
Oh, that's the right one. That's the right one.
Yeah, by then Gilad was a real Jedi Master, so it was no surprise that he ended up playing the Temple Battle Master in the game and in the holo recording Obi-Wan watches in the movie. The name of his character, Sindralig, was a nod to his own name. Just a quick note about the fight in Palpatine's office.
And action.
Once again, Gilad prepared it using a temporary set, and if you look closely, you can even spot the markings on the blue screen showing where the window would be. Yup, just like Diamond used to do, Gilad was in close collaborations with the decorators to take into account the geometry of the set. Once they shot it, Sam Jackson had a pure blast at playing Windu's death.
Oh my God, I'm awake. It's morning.
Obviously. Nick, you're supposed to hang on.
As for Palpatine, it was a bit of a struggle, since Lucas wanted close-ups to capture emotions through McDiarmid's acting. but he was old and not fast enough for the choreography. So Gillard ended up redesigning the fight the very day of the shooting, and they swapped the stunt double's face afterward. Alright, here we are. The duel of the century. And I think that for us Star Wars fans, the story of how much the actors trained for the Battle of the Heroes is almost as legendary as the sequence itself. So yeah, Hayden and Ewan worked for months in the training room, drilling that incredibly long choreography over and over. 8 hours a day, suffering when moves were not correct, and practicing their memory so that everything would go smooth for the shooting. They trained again, and again. A kind of friendly rivalry grew between the two, pushing them to surpass each other until they became real warriors. And that was especially true for Hayden, who seemed born to portray the Chosen One. Indeed, Gillard often praised his skills and dedication in doing almost every scene without a stunt double.
We've got 2 really good stunt doubles, Nash Edgerton and Ben Cook, for Obi and Anakin, but they rarely get to work because the boys do it pretty much themselves.
You want to do that, or you want to have a stunt guy do that?
I'll do it if you'd like me to.
No, it's up to you.
Yeah, sure.
When the actors arrived on set in the morning, they warmed up with a few strikes. Then the show started, leaving everyone stunned to the point every crew member managed to be around to witness the fighting scenes. At the end of the shot, the audience would break into applause. In some of the prequels fights, scenes were shot in 22 frames per second, so that once put back at 24 FPS, it would be a bit sped up. No need here. The final result is at real speed and shows the mastery of both actors. I reckon that anyone who knew Star Wars as a child found himself wielding a broomstick like a Jedi. That's partly why the legacy of the lightsaber is clear, given the number of children fighting in wonder, adults fighting for fun, adults fighting for beauty, fans breaking down the saga's duels, those who remake them with up-to-date special effects. Anyway, for all of this, we can only thank the choreographers and actors who turned swinging around glowing sticks into a timeless cinematic art form.